Facility?
Yep.
Call the meeting to order at 7:05 PM on April 11th, 2018. If you guys can just name and present.
John Regan, present.
Richard Riley, present.
Al Gilbo, present.
Greg Lapine, present.
Tom Cooney, present.
I'm going to appoint Greg Lapine and Tom Cooney as full members to the board this evening. Over there we have all five. We are good to go. On the agenda this evening, we have case number 2018-01. This is the applicant S&L Projects LLC, address 108 North Washington, Suite 600, Spokane, Washington. The owner of the property is Colby Litchfield LLC, care of Richard J. Maloney and Company. Address of the owner, 15 Dartmouth Drive, Auburn, New Hampshire. Location of property, 476 Charles Bancroft Highway, map 21/1, with portions on map 22, lot 96 as well. Description of the property: uniquely shaped 9.8 acre parcel with mix of a farm field and wooded area. And the applicant is seeking a special exception as specified in Litchfield Zone Ordinance Section 1208-00, correct? Description of the proposed use is the proposed use is a new distribution facility for LQK, which I assume is the name of the company. It will include their office space and associated warehouse. The facility will store and distribute auto and RV parts to local businesses. I don't think we need to do anything else.
No.
I know the case was published in the Hudson Litchfield News. And I guess at this point,
Great. What is the, did you go over with the details of the special exception?
is
I'm
he
happy
gonna
to go
present
through
that now?
those.
Okay.
Great. My name is Brian Pratt. I'm with CLD Fuss and O'Neill. I'm the design engineer. And I've been in front of this board actually a couple times for this project. Last year, we presented a special exception for wetland impact for Erickson Construction. They were a small construction company that was planning on putting their headquarters back there. They ended up not being able to proceed. They couldn't afford the off-site improvements for utilities, so they ended up abandoning the project. But another company came in, LKQ, which is Keystone Automotive. It's a auto parts warehouse and distribution facility. So what they're proposing to do is put a 36,000 square foot auto parts and warehouse distribution facility back here. Up on the screen I have kind of just the Google aerial. So this is New England Small Tube. Mel's Funway is down over here. Charles Bancroft Highway is right here, and then the Merrimack River is in the back. The plan is to put the building in this farm field in the back here. Same thing, the Merrimack River is in the back. New England Small Tube is in front here. Mel's Funway is off to the left. So we came here actually probably about 6 months ago to seek variances for two sections of the ordinance. One was the use, and the other was the building height, which both were approved. It's located in the northern commercial zone. Industrial uses aren't allowed, but if you look at kind of the neighborhood, there's industrial uses, and the unique shape of the lot, where it's kind of like a flag lot where the buildable area is set really far back away from the road, kind of made it ideal. You're not going to get any commercial retail users back there. Nobody's going to drive that far back. So we did receive a special exception previously from this board for the previous development, but we're back again to request the same special exception, and we also had to make some driveway changes based on DOT and based on some coordination with the abutter. That the abutter was working with Erickson Construction to sell a little triangle of land. The existing driveway kind of clips the corner of New England Small Tubes property. It comes in kind of where I'm showing right here. Erickson was working with the owners of New England Small Tube to purchase a little triangle of land to allow the driveway to stay in that location where the existing driveway is now. The applicants approached New England Small Tube and they no longer wanted to sell. So what we had to do is we had to push the driveway over a bit onto our own property. And I can show this right here. So this line right here, this is the property line. It's kind of the bold line. This kind of lighter line, that's the existing driveway. Right now it's the farm road.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show.
When we talk about a driveway, we're actually talking about a gravel road, basically.
Yeah, it's just
Farm
like
road is,
it's just a farm road. Yeah, exactly. So this is.
All right, you're the first one ever to use technology like this. Okay. Greg, look how far we've come, right?
So it's loading a little slow because the internet's going through my cell phone, but.
I knew the internet wasn't here already for this. Okay.
So this is that existing,
Yeah.
existing driveway. Their property line actually is probably closer to this sign right here. So what we need to do is we need to push that driveway over a bit, into this area to avoid, going onto the abutter's property.
What becomes of the old path?
It's just gonna be abandoned, so we'll close off, within the right of way, we'll loam and seed. We're not gonna touch anything on the neighbor's property.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing, there's a little bit of a ditch right here to intercept some of the water, so nobody will be able to drive down through the ditch up into there anyway. So the combination of the grass, it'll end up just revegetating, or the abutter can do whatever they want with it if they choose to.
So the path will become part of your drainage swale.
Well, we're not grading on their property, but where the path, comes on our property right here, that will be converted into a little bit of a ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a small amount of area that kind of flows down. It's just so that we don't have water sheeting across the driveway. It'll just collect the water and it'll run it down this way and then it'll hit the culvert. So, whoops.
This is going to end up becoming a nice, pretty corporate driveway, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Nice, pretty.
Nice, pretty corporate driveway, not a truck path.
Correct. Yeah, it'll be paved.
Neon
It'll,
sign.
Nice neon sign out front, low profile, not neon, low profile,
Oh, they are working on-
corporate looking,
they're working
gold
with the
leaf
town
type
on
of thing.
sign,
right?
they're not currently planning a sign out there. They may come back. If they do, they'll have to go back to the planning board to show it. But right now, we don't have any proposed signage out there because there's no customers that come here.
Yeah.
It's all just their employees
yeah.
and then their deliveries. So the red is our impacts to the 50-foot wetland buffer. So this is Colby Brook, which runs. There's a twin 60-inch culverts that run under the Charles Bancroft Highway. So we tried to keep this, like I said, we tried to work with the abutter to avoid impacts here, and they just weren't interested. We tried to work with the DOT to keep this as narrow as possible, but they're concerned with the trucks driving in, so they really want, this is what that driveway is gonna look like. There's gonna be some striping in the middle, and what that does is it keeps the exiting vehicles as far over to the right as possible, which will allow a tractor trailer to turn into the
Swing.
site without crossing the center line of either the Charles Bancroft Highway or without crossing into the incoming lane. Also, vehicles, the reason for this really wide flare here is because, again, the DOT wanted trucks to be able to take a right out without crossing the center line of Charles Bancroft Highway. So it's full functionality. There won't be any trucks backing up into the street. Unfortunately, the side effect of that is we have to do some buffer impacts. So we're supposed to maintain a 50-foot buffer. What we do maintain is almost 50 feet from the edge of pavement to the closest wetland, part of the wetlands there, to the edge of pavement. But we have this, because it's kind of, I don't know if you can see the contours, but it slopes down. There's a pretty good pitch there. So this is all going to have to be filled up. And then this right here is a riprap slope. So it's a steep 1-to-1, big riprap slope, and we'll have a guardrail at the top.
Will there be a curb there?
There's no curb there, no. The water will sheet off and then filter down into that.
Mhm.
And then the water will, again, once it reaches the bottom of the riprap, this will all remain naturally vegetated. We still have at least 30 feet here The good news about the riprap is most of that water will kind of get down into it and infiltrate in that area. And it's, we're not concentrating, we're not collecting it. If we did curbing there, we'd have to collect it, and then we'd have to put like a detention basin or a level spreader or something down here, which, we talked to Fish and Game and AOT, and they didn't want anything like that, because then you end up with more disturbances. You end up somewhere where you have point discharges instead of a even sheet discharge.
Yep.
So we have a little bit of wetland buffer impact here. As you come down the road, there's an existing driveway that comes out from the abutters property. And there's a little bit of a wet, stormwater channel there. So we have a little bit of wetland buffer impact there. We aren't disturbing the wetlands there at all, though. We're not disturbing the pipe. We're preserving it. And then as you drive down the road a little bit more, this is right where the property opens up. So this is that first culvert I was talking about. This is that second second culvert. So there's an existing old farm ditch that comes from between New England Small Tube and our property. I think it was cut in from the farmer back in the day, on the edge of the field to keep the field irrigated and drained as he needed. There's an existing 12-inch culvert that goes under that little farm road. It's obviously not very wide, and it's only, I think it's either 12 or 15 inch. What we're planning on doing is expanding that to a 24 inch. That was per request of the Wetlands Bureau. That allows critters to crawl through it. It's going to be embedded about 4 inches in, so it'll kind of silt in with a little natural bottom through there. We have to widen it because we need a wider road, and we needed to fill it up so that there's proper cover over the pipe. So we have a little bit of wetland impact here and a little bit of buffer impact. That's about it. Like I said, we really tried to minimize the buffer impacts, but this is the only place that we could get access to the property that wasn't really far away.
Let me ask you, if you can bring that map up again that had all the wetlands on there, please, the
This
drawing. Yep, right in there.
Sure.
First question. As you stated, you were already in front of this board for both the original, two times, basically. Once was for the use.
Yep.
With the other company. Then you were back for the use. And these wetlands were in there too, right?
They were, yeah. So we got a special exception for this area
Already? And that's unchanged.
Where's your mouse? I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
From then to now.
No, it
Right
did,
here.
it did
Yeah.
change.
It did change a little bit. So,
It did.
so after, so the Department of Environmental Services, when you do a wetlands impact, if you're within 20 feet of an abutting property owner, if you have impacts within 20 feet, they require that you get a letter from the abutter stating
That's
that they're
right, too.
okay with the
So
impacts.
that had to shift there too then.
Correct. The abutter they weren't interested in signing that.
And
So,
the same abutter basically, right?
yep. So we had to push this road bumped out
That
a
one
little
slightly.
bit away from their
Okay.
property.
So that was slightly impacted, there's a change there.
Yep. This one stayed the same
That
except
stayed the same.
for the most part, except because the angle, originally this road
The
followed.
riprap is a little different.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so it's a little bit of expansion here, and then this is all new.
That's all new for sure.
Yep.
What's the new impact where you meet the abutter?
In this area,
Yeah.
so that is impact 3. So it's 2,660 square feet of buffer impact. So that's that red area. And really, it's the existing drive is in there, so it's actually a little less than that because there's not trees down the driveway, so it's a little bit on one side, a little bit in the other. But just instead of trying to like carve it out and take out that little section, we just accounted for the whole thing.
Also, what I can do at this time, I have a letter from the Conservation Committee that I'll read. Dated April 10th, 2018. Dear Chairman Riley and board members, the Conservation Commission has reviewed the applicant's request for a special exception to Section 1207.03 buffers of the Litchfield zoning regulations and wetland disturbance at the culvert at Station 5 plus 50 approximate. The applicant has agreed to install a double row of silt fencing near the entrance with New Hampshire Route 3A and Colby Brook. They also have agreed to remove the silt fencing after construction when there is 75% vegetation. We have no further concerns at this time. Sincerely, Joan McKibben, Chairman, Litchfield Conservation Committee.
Yeah, I've met with Joan on site, Joan and Jen Sis from the Planning Commission, and, I showed them the location and pointed out where everything would be, and, like she mentioned, we're gonna do a double row of silt fence down here, so there'll be one row, and then 5 feet back, there'll be another. And,
The bundles of, what's this?
yeah, it's the black.
Black bundles of hay,
fencing.
whatever it is, to keep things from runoff from.
Yeah, so it comes in rolls, and it's just it's a fabric
Okay.
that's on stakes. It's
Oh,
like 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
So what they do is they dig down like, 10, 12 inches, a little tiny trench, and then they hammer it in, and then they backfill. So what happens is, as the water sheets to it, it has to filter through it. So it catches the silt and sediment. Sometimes what happens is you get a big storm, a lot of stuff washes, the first silt fence will either collapse or it'll just get full. So the double row just will provide that
You got a
extra
pretty good
security.
grade there.
Until there's
Probably
really
not a bad idea.
vegetation that can capture it otherwise.
Yep, once it hits 75% vegetated, you're supposed to remove that silt fence because then it can
It holds its own.
Yeah, right.
exactly, yep. So, we did consider a retaining wall there, but a couple of reasons. The cost, for one, retaining walls are very expensive. And the other thing, it would be very tall. It would prevent critters and whatnot from actually being able to make it up the slope if they wanted to, play Frogger. And again, that would cause us to have to collect all the water. So then we'd have to either, collect it, and we'd have to have like a detention basin or something down here. So, they wanted to preserve as much of this natural as possible. And with the riprap, that will end up vegetating up. You'll get some seeds in there. You will get some weeds and so that will end up vegetating in there. So.
Why did she say 1207.03? What's 1207.03?
Sorry, what's that?
1207.03 buffers. All right. So this is, oh, that's another thing too. These are man-made?
Some of them are.
Some of them are,
Yeah,
right?
so
So
this
that's
is,
where 1207.03 comes into play, I believe. Maybe not.
I don't
Are
have
you
to.
talking about the existing drainage?
Yeah, well, some of the wetland area in here is actually considered
Man-made.
man-made.
Yeah, this-
It's a natural,
This one is man-made right here,
yeah,
and then this one is man-made.
which has a little less,
Right.
buffer requirements. And
Yeah, I think it asked for 25
It's,
foot
it's more of a
buffers.
guidance as opposed to a requirement, if I remember correctly.
I think that's correct. That sounds right.
Yeah, it's right here. The wetland conservation district buffer shall be encouraged, but not required, next to man-made vegetated swales, roadside drainage, ditches, sedimentation, detention basins, et cetera, et cetera. It's available in the ordinance if you want to read the rest of it. Okay.
So that man-made wetland right there, where it says like 50 feet off, up in the front.
This one?
No, up towards the road. What's that's a pretty big drop off right there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
it's-
have,
How big is the slope gonna be on that?
let's see. So this is the cross-section. So this is that driveway, here's the guardrail, and then this is that slope, so it's,
So before it would have been a gradual sloping, like you have,
Mm.
right? Now it's a more severe slope?
yeah, if it was over
7 feet?
Yeah.
further,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be, I mean, we did have a steep slope there, and we were trying to stay out of the 50-foot, but DOT made us go wider because they wanted the tractor trailers to be able to make it in, so it's pretty much the same slope. Originally, when we came, and, we were able to purchase that triangle of land, we didn't have a steep slope like that. So here's just kind of like the striping of it, if you're interested. And I do have a circulation plan I can show, let's see. There we go, so this shows the tractor trailer turning right into the site. And while the tractor trailer's sitting, waiting, and then that tractor trailer can turn right and leave. And they never cross the center line, so.
Well, interesting. So coming out, they have to go, what, south?
No, they can take a left.
They can take a left?
Yep, yep, that's over here.
But if
Oh,
they're
okay, gotcha,
If they're going to the right, they don't want them crossing center line.
Right,
Yep.
right.
And if they're turning in from the south, they can make it into the site, no problem.
Is it, I forget this, but the presumption is they're probably gonna go more north than
Yeah.
south, right?
Yeah, they'll be coming from the highway. I don't
Right.
expect anybody to go south.
Right. Okay.
Did you resubmit an application in order to come forward today, or is it basically still the same application with the same responses?
I did resubmit to Kevin some
You did?
changes, yeah.
So that some of the responses were modified slightly as a result of that? Because it doesn't look like they put a copy of that in my file. Unless this is it, I don't.
Remember, because it was
2218?
it was a few months ago, so
2218 I got here, this one's dated.
that's the one I have here, but I know I submitted, I gave everything to Kevin
Okay.
for the changes. I don't know if I changed the actual wording, but I'm happy to.
Oh, no, well, I was just curious to know, I just want to make sure I've got
Yeah,
everything.
I don't think I did a new letter.
For the
I-
file and.
Yeah, I don't think I did a new
Follow
letter,
along
but
with you.
I know I submitted new plans and, an explanation of the changes to Kevin,
Okay,
so.
okay.
But what I'll do is I can read.
Yep, that's what we'll
Verbally, if
need
you
you to
want.
do, for sure.
Sure. So you want me to go through the criteria right
Wait a
now?
minute, just curious, you have 1207.03 here too, is it 1207.03 or 1208?
It's gonna be a little bit of everything.
So should I put that in,
Uh,
and buffers and 1208? Okay, you get
Oh.
1207 on there?
1200.01, you mean?
Yeah, you say a request for special exception from LZO section 1207.03, buffers.
Yeah, we can, I highlighted that because I wasn't sure if anything changed based on the fact that he's here again.
Okay.
This was accurate based on the original request,
Okay,
but he's now coming back again, so, and there's some slight modifications, so I need to sync up with whatever those changes are. But for the criteria, as he goes down, we'll be able to
The
just
same.
follow
So
that.
you'll
I'll
edit this
update that, as long
Okay,
as it's
gotcha.
highlighted, I'll update that.
okay.
The criteria on 1200.01, right?
Yes, I think so,
There's like A through G.
Looking for your book?
yeah. All right, go ahead,
Number one,
So
that's
A.
right, follow on.
All right, so A, the proposed use, construction, and/or alteration shall be constructed in such a way that does not unduly restrict the flow of water. Um, So, this culvert, we're upgrading in size, and we're oversizing it, so that will actually allow water to flow better through there. This first culvert, we're not affecting at all, we're leaving it in place. And then this impact doesn't change doesn't affect the flow, it doesn't have any impact on Colby Brook. It can be shown that the proposed use is not in conflict with any of the purposes and intentions listed in section 1200.01 of this ordinance. So the improvement of the driveway from an existing 10-foot wide gravel driveway to a 24-foot wide asphalt driveway for proposed business traffic is proposed to take into account all appropriate construction requirements to fully protect both the wetland and wetland buffer post-construction without degrading stormwater. The proposed use is not in conflict with the purpose and intent of Wetlands Conservation District as described in 1200.01A through G. And I think I have those separately.
Yep, I have a supplement to it here. I don't know if they changed again, but I know this was originally submitted with the application.
Let's see. The use or activity proposed and its attendant impacts cannot reasonably be avoided.
Let's get back here.
As we mentioned, we attempted to work with the abutter to purchase land to keep the driveway where it's located. They weren't interested, so we had to push it onto our own property. The least damaging route and methodology have been selected, and that which is being proposed is the best practical alternative available. Again, we kept the driveway as close to the property line as we possibly could. we worked with the DOT to keep it as narrow as possible, and we have this steep slope, as steep as it can reasonably be constructed, to minimize impacts. Reasonable and acceptable impact mitigation measures have been incorporated where necessary and appropriate to minimize wetland loss or degradation. The proposed driveway is designed to minimize land disturbance in general. This design results in the smallest disturbance possible of wetlands and wetland buffer impacts. No significant impact on the aquatic habitat of rare and endangered species as listed by the state of New Hampshire or federal government will result. The design team has been in communication with the Natural Heritage Bureau as well as Fish and Game in relation to rare and endangered species. The design will implement wildlife-friendly erosion control matting, placing notes on the construction plans regarding the endangered species, and also implement an undisturbed natural buffer along Colby Brook to protect the stream quality and wildlife habitat. So we have a sheet in here in the plan set that I'll show. Sorry, it's lagging a little. So they didn't spot any rare and endangered species on the site itself, but they said that there's the potential for hognose snake and black racer and a Blanding's turtle or wood turtle to be in the vicinity. So we have this sheet in the plan set which identifies these species so that the contractor, if they see something that they hopefully, are responsible and
This
call.
is the same information and sheets that we reviewed at the last hearing, which not everybody was here,
Yep.
if you recall, but it is something that was all considered at the, with, again, I'm just gonna point out, was previously approved, however, it looks like all of what we approved has changed slightly because of,
Yep.
the alterations that were required
Exactly.
here.
Yep.
Just to kind of keep you back in a little.
Adequate erosion and sediment control methods appropriate to the use are incorporated as detailed by the current recognized BMPs, Stormwater Management Erosion Sediment Control Handbook for urban and developing areas in New Hampshire, Rockingham County Conservation District, DES, and Soil Conservation Service, August 1992 as amended. The project did receive an alteration of terrain permit, and, they did concur with our design. They didn't have any comments on it. The double row of silt fence will help protect the area where we have, a little bit less buffer than we really would have liked. State wetland permits as required are obtained. We did obtain the wetlands permit for the crossing in this location. That was granted a couple weeks ago. We also received the alteration of terrain permit. We received the DOT permit. We received the shoreline protection permit, and we received the septic system permit as well. So they're ready to start construction as soon as, provided this
We'll get it from the notes.
special exception.
We're gonna hold it up.
Yeah, see, that's good, because if I recall correctly, when you were here last, that was still in the works, a lot of that. I think the only thing you might have had at the time was the wetlands permit.
What were the permits again?
Alteration of terrain,
Yeah.
shoreline protection,
Shoreline protection.
shoreland,
Shoreland,
protection, yep.
okay.
Two of the munchkins.
Wetlands impact, wetlands disturbance,
Disturbance, impact,
septic, NHDES, septic system,
H,
NHDES.
septic.
All of those other ones were all from New Hampshire, from NHDES as well.
Yep.
And then NHDOT, the Department of Transportation, driveway permit.
Now, if I recall correctly, you were still in discussions with the Conservation Committee at that time, and now it looks like you guys have pretty much worked things out.
Think so.
To their satisfaction.
Yep.
Planning Board, you've met with the Planning Board
We have a
more
con-
than one occasion on this already?
Yep, we went to them twice. We have received,
History, any stipulations, anything out of that?
we received conditional approval, contingent on getting this special exception
Yep.
and getting our permits and any final engineering review comments, which we've addressed and resubmitted to Lou Karen.
I know when we had first looked at the use here and we considered that, there was some discussion around lighting.
Mhm.
I think that might have been taken up further with the Planning Board,
A little bit, yeah, we did discuss lighting, so, let's see.
because it was one of our stipulations, if I remember correctly, that, it was very broad, but the point was, take into account, minimizing any impact to abutters,
We can look it
basically.
up on your file here.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. So
I'm
we,
just curious to know what they discussed at the planning board, because ultimately, that's the planning board's purview, I think, to.
yep, so we have three short pole lights along the driveway, so that'll keep the driveway lit. We have a few lights, it's lighting plans up here. So we have a few poles in the parking lot on this side, and then there's a couple poles in the way back, and then there's some wall packs in the back to light up the loading area in the back.
And there are any of those motions so that they're not on all the time?
Yep.
Isn't that what, something
Yep.
else I think they talked about?
Yeah, exactly, so
LED lights are like that.
Yeah,
they're all LEDs, yep, they'll dim after hours, and then they'll be on a motion sensor, so that if they detect something, then they'll come back
bright.
up, yep. So that they're not, you know,
Cool.
yeah, exactly.
yeah, that was, we discussed that with the Lower Merrimack River Advisory Committee as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, so we met with them a couple of times. Had a lot of coordination on this.
Who's right across, is that Gilbane or the bud plant that's right on the other side of the road?
Gilbane.
It's way
Is
down.
it Gilbane? Yeah.
Gilbane's even further down, I think, though.
No, that's up north.
So that St. Gobain is right,
Yeah, that's.
kind of diagonally across there. There's, you know, a little bit of undeveloped, and then there's looks like a residential neighborhood on that side.
You don't have
So
to
we
tell them
do,
anymore.
we have a pretty good stand of trees between the river and us. Let's see. I cut a little cross-section.
I think the planning board was also a little sensitive around preserving as much of the existing trees as possible, right?
Yeah, we pretty much stay in the field. We do have to cut into a little bit for some stormwater, but if you look at this kind of cross-section, so this is the approximate kind of the tree buffer. It's pretty thick through there, and that's going to remain. And you can see that's about the same height as the building, so.
Hmm.
And the building's very tall, so the light poles are actually shorter than that.
Oh, interesting.
Are you on the floodplain?
The floodplain is midway up that banking, so that's the approximate floodplain. So
Okay.
we're well above it with all the developed areas.
Good. I know you've been waiting patiently. I'd like to take some public comments if, at this point, I'd like to welcome any comments from the public. If, I would need you to state your name and address if you would, please.
I'm Colleen Ellis, and I'm the abutter at New England Small Tube, 480 Charles Bancroft Highway.
Okay.
We have a question about the driveway, and maybe you can answer this, Brian. We have a drainage easement that goes through that area where the new driveway is, from our property to Colby Brook on our deed. So we just want to make sure that that is,
Is that the one that's getting upgraded?
Nope.
No, the
That's,
one further
that's this
down.
one right here. So they have some drainage on their property, and they have that culvert that comes out under. Yep, we're not blocking it or anything. We have plans that show that they have a drainage easement, so we're preserving it. If they need to get in and replace it, they have the right to do so. But we're not affecting it, though.
With an easement, yeah, right.
Yep.
So there's no upgrades necessary or being done at this time?
So is there a culvert right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, there's existing 12-inch metal pipe that comes
That
out,
was a 12-inch
right there.
stand, yeah.
and it comes from a catch basin on their property. So,
The ones further down are the ones you're upgrading,
exactly, yep,
for the bigger
that's,
sizes, yeah.
yep.
yeah, we didn't, we just wanted to make sure that the construction wouldn't affect that drainage easement, that's all.
Yeah, it shouldn't, and I don't see how they could.
Yeah, if they damage
with
the pipe, they'll
easement.
have to fix it.
And then you'll get a bigger, better one.
Hope for the damage.
And that's really.
That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, I don't think there's any more public input. Any other questions from the board?
I can't think of anything. He seems to have addressed everything, all of these things.
Yeah, and I do have to get some updated paperwork, but I'll make sure I get a hold of that afterwards and get that into the file. Any other thing else you want to add before we close public input?
I don't think so. I think I covered everything unless you have more questions.
Nope, but we'll ask if we do. I have a motion to close public input from anybody?
I'll make a motion to close public input.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Greg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, like I said a couple of times already, the bulk of this has been hashed out in the previous meeting. I was here. He's pretty much gone over everything that he went over last time, in a little briefer detail than he did last time. It's unfortunate there is some additional impacts here, but, you know, there seems to be a lot of approvals already in place on this, including Conservation Committee, which is good to hear,
Yeah,
especially since it wasn't in place last time.
well, I think he's got all the
Last time as
permits.
well.
Yeah. Oh, you were, that's right.
I was here the last time for this one too.
I'll be able to glean a lot of information from this
Yeah.
documentation
Yeah,
too.
good.
So if you can just catch the highlights of it, that'd be great. But I don't know if there's any other questions or concerns or
I don't know, it seemed to,
debate, otherwise I would entertain a motion for anything.
Motion to
Pizza?
anything?
Yeah, right.
I'll make the motion that we grant the, special exception
As requested,
as requested.
and then I'll just go ahead and
Yeah,
capture
put-
that
put in the
accurately
details.
in the approval. I have a motion to grant the applicant's request for a special exception. Do I have a
I'll
second?
That motion.
Have a second from Tom? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
We're all set. You know
You're gonna
the
start,
rules from here on forward.
you're gonna start construction and
Soon,
soon?
yeah, I think probably in a month or so.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Don't think you have to wait for the frost to come out of the ground.
Not now, yeah.
Is there any-
Unless it comes back, you never know, right?
I don't know where you think you're going.
If you could make a note just to make sure, I mean, I'll try to track Kevin down tomorrow, but I would like to make sure I have any updated documents that were sent.
Okay.
Some of what you were reading from,
Yeah.
I don't have here.
Okay.
That's why I know that there's something.
Yeah, but some of it I was
missing.
paraphrasing, so why don't I make sure I'll get you the updated.
That'd be great. You have my email, right?
I do,
Yeah.
okay, so I will, I'll email
Greatly
that to you
appreciate it.
tomorrow.
This is one of the heaviest biggest files we have. It's those drawings.
So, how come they,
We'll
how come
get
things are
another
so
file
easy
cabinet.
nowadays?
Huh?
How come things are so easy?
You'll come more prepared.
I don't know. Because Al's here.
I was here for the last one too.
The only other thing I had on the agenda was to the election of officers, which, I mean,
I'd make a
I
motion.
elect Rich as president, as chair.
I second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm
I
abstaining.
elect Laura as vice chair.
I'll second that one.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There you go.
So the motion
I
carries
I
4-1,
nominate,
4-0-1. I abstained from the first one. Second one carries 5-0.
To do the clerk or secretary?
No, we don't do one.
Oh, gee.
We've eliminated it. Unless you want to step up,
Eliminated. No, I was gonna do,
we eliminated the position.
eliminated it.
We did. We're
So what's he doing?
downsizing.
So what's he doing?
I didn't type.
There is nothing. Everybody else is alternate, or members. We only have chair and vice chair positions now.
Okay.
Position.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
I have a motion to adjourn. All those seconded?
Second that?
Second by Tom. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
We
That
are
was good and quick.
Yeah, that's the way we like them.